We've had a changing of the guards. It's beautiful to be on the desk. We've finally got rid of Rob. Guz, you've joined me, and of course we've still got the lovely Blue Panda, which is amazing to have him on tonight. What a performance from Elevate, 7-zip. We haven't seen that for a little while, Guz, but ultimately we move forward now, and we've got a pretty big game coming up very shortly, Knights versus Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, well, Elevate wasn't quite 7-zip, but they did win 7 rounds straight, so I guess technically you are correct there. But yeah, I guess moving forward into the night, the Knights are taking on Invictus, as you said, and that's boiling up to be a bit of a banger, right? Two big storylines heading into this one. The Knights looking to continue their form after a really good start in Playday 1. Invictus, on the other hand, still looking to find their feet.
Yeah, look, coming into this match, it's special to me for a couple of reasons. I'm a big fan of the Knights, but I'm a big fan of the Invictus Gaming guys because, I mean, they're an organization that has come out and stepped into Rainbow Six, but they've also held titles as world champions in a number of different esports. So they've got big shoes to fill. So obviously the potential is absolutely huge. And look at them, the ex-Giants guys, Luna Metal, Hysteric, Speakeasy, Jordan, and Joe. They came in last week. They took that big win against Wildcard on Villa. We know, look. We hope that we're not going to have to go there again, Xenox. We know how much you despise the map, but there is a possibility.
Look, I think for Invictus Gaming, they're a team that is going to find new heights in Stage 2 compared to Stage 1. You would at least hope so, and as you said, defeating Wildcard last week was a good way to start the season. But I will say this, Guz, their opponents for tonight, it's going to be a tougher task. Knights, of course, one of the best teams in APAC South, and they're going to provide a real challenge.
They sure will. I said that Invictus still need to kind of find their feet. Taking down Wildcard is one thing, but the Knights on screen now, they are in a whole nother league. Many, including myself, would argue that they are the best that OS have to offer at the moment in their current form, and so far they may well be teetering towards the best that APAC South and maybe even APAC as a whole has to offer. This team continues to improve week after week. The way they go about the game, the way they conduct themselves, incredibly professional. Some would say maybe a little bit too stone cold, but they get the job done and we can't fault them on that.
Yeah, I mean, this Knights roster, they very much come out as almost the older brother of ANZ. They've moved out of home, they've started to figure out who they are as a team, and they just play their Rainbow Six Siege, which has proved to be very, very capable at a very, very high level. So coming into this, I mean, if they carry on that momentum, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they just storm straight past Invictus, look to carry on. They want that spot at the Mexico Major.
Yeah, and they certainly do, and they're a team that, if they can get there, certainly will have earned it. They do have to get through these teams. Good start, of course, by defeating Elevate in week 1. Now you got IG here in week 2. And then, basically every matchup for the entire 7 Playdays is going to be a difficult one. But the Knights will usually go in favorites, and I guess they will go in favorites for this one as well. Let's go and have a look at the map, though, for this particular matchup and see if we're going to be changing scenery. And we are not. Keep your sunscreen on. We're heading straight back to Coastline for the 3rd time in a row. Who knows? Maybe Guz, by the end of the night, we could go there 4 times.
I tell you what, I said before that I'm going to get burnt. I definitely will after this. It's getting a little bit ridiculous, but in terms of looking at the stats for both of these teams in recent history, we haven't really seen a whole lot of Coastline. For me, the team's not a predominant map by any stretch of the imagination, but the Knights have played it a handful of times, a 3-0 record for them, but they've also not shied away from banning it. In fact, the Knights actually overall are really quite mixed in their bans. So in terms of heading to Coastline and being able to nail down which team's going to win because it's Coastline, looking into the numbers, I'm not all about that. Let's just hype up the teams, get excited, and I think just overarching the story is that the Knights are just the better team overall on probably most maps against most opponents in this league at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they've proven themselves. They weathered the storm against Elevate, who were playing highly aggressive Rainbow Six, even on the defense, spawn peaks, runouts. Knights just stuck with it. They carried on, got to their side, their defensive half, and then closed it out in the finish. So, I mean, this is a team that is not going to be deterred by anything crazy out there. On a map like Coastline, they will play their game. Once they get into the building on attack, they're going to look to clear things out, get onto the side and do their job. But when they head to the defense, I mean, look, they're the Pittsburgh Knights. They're Knights. They're going to hold fast, not be shifted unless they're dead, and they're going to look to hold down the fort that way. So, look, I mean, honestly, the Invictus guys probably have the bigger battle here today.
I think that we can agree with that. Predictions, all 5 of us, and I think including yourself, Blue Panda, was, which would make it 6, is on the side of the Knights coming into this, and that sets the tone coming into this matchup. Knights definitely the favourites, but after tonight, who knows? Realistically, Coastline has already thrown up 1 defensive game, 1 offensive game, maybe this one will be a bit more of a mixed bag. I'm going to throw it over to your casters. It is going to be Manic and Dev.
Surprised we got a nice warm welcome, Dev. I was expecting a bit of abuse to be thrown our way on that, but we're here and we're ready. Third map of the day, you know, third coastline of the day. We've seen two, similar results in the way that they've kind of panned out, but as Xenox was just alluding to, one attacking, one defending sided. I do feel like this is going to be a little bit more clear cut. How are you feeling?
It's very hard to predict. I think that the first two games have definitely shown us that, but now, of course, there's two very highly regarded teams heading into the server, Knights and Invictus Gaming International. Yet another OST versus Southeast Asia clash as well. The Knights seem to be the best hope for OST, perhaps in all of APAC, but Invictus, they have certainly been looking hungry since they got picked up by this massive organization. And, well, both of these teams have been flawless. They've won their first game so far in APAC South League. And one of them will continue that trend, one of them will not.
It's pretty crazy to think that the Knights are the only team right now that's, from an OST perspective, have been able to put a score on the board. Now, granted, we still have another game to go for the night, but all things considered here,
well,
it's
will have
certainly...
to be an OST win, as it's two OST teams playing. I should hope that we have another OST win tonight.
I would hope so! No, but that is very true. I do foresee that happening in the later match, but obviously I'm alluding to the point that right at this second, Dev Marta, that's the panning out, the turning of the tides. Talking of which, the bans are finally at their conclusion. Dev, anything sticking out to you?
Yeah, so I mean, the line, as we already saw on the previous map, is a very strong pick here on Coastline for really subduing the aggression and locking down those defenders into positions where you could take them down. The Wamai, bit of a misnomer, not as popular a ban as he used to be back when the meta very much heavily revolved around Wamai Jaeger protecting, your Vulcan shields and your bulletproof gadgets. But Knights have been known to make some strong use of it, and Invictus, they just like banning that Wamai. They banned it last week against Wildcard, and that has been a staple of theirs in the past, so I see that working out. But overall, Thatcher and Mira very much staple bans, just removing some of those, I guess, the things that you have to deal with. Like, if Thatcher's not banned, then certainly makes Hardbreach a hell of a lot easier on this map. So Invictus don't want to leave Knights that easy way in.
Juicy showcasing, a little bit of a Warden. Rook to 6 pick on 2, and Speakeasy has decided to opt out of the Nomad. Ooh. So Flank Watch is going to be significantly less, but a bit of a pacey setup might allow them to assert their dominance inside the building.
Yeah, certainly. Now, coming into this game, we've kind of hyped up a little bit what we're looking to expect here, but both of these teams, I think, have quite a storied history. The Knights are definitely looking like one of the strongest teams in APAC South, if not APAC, and not just the OCN teams or the OST teams, but just all of the APAC teams in general, especially with their really deep run that they made through the playoffs bracket for Stage 1. They ended up, I guess you could say, winning the playoffs, but of course, the way the bracket panned out, the best they could achieve was 3rd place. They even took down Fnatic here on Coastline in a convincing 7-3. So Knights definitely not a team to be scoffed at. In fact, they beat Invictus last time they played in Stage 1. It was a 7-5 on Clubhouse. So I think that most people here would favor Knights. That said, Invictus are that team where everyone just knows they have such high potential and they've achieved so much in the past that you just can't count them out.
No, it is crazy to see the differences between, 2020 and 2021. That being said, anything's really possible in APAC South. And I think that's really the storyline that we have been highlighting all through Stage 1 and now to Stage 2. There is no real predicting what really comes next. And there we go. Speakeasy, nice and early in the luggage. That's a lot of early control toward Aquarium, Dev. I guess that does negate a little bit of the flank watch early on, but this could be really dangerous for Knights if they're not careful.
But they are, and watching for the angle, Juicy does actually land the injury. He's going to be able to secure it and get away safely. Sees the blood trail, knows that that player is downed, picks up the frag, walks away.
Yeah, you feel like that's just an overextension. Speakeasy gets into luggage really early, and unfortunately for him, the rest of the team haven't really been able to achieve a lot more on different areas of the map. But as we do start to turn into the second half of this round, they will slowly and surely encroach on the defender's position. Hysterics being one of the main leaders here. Kitchen now looking to take control of blue. He needs to be careful. Josh is just on the other side of Sunrise. As Juicy playing a little bit more aggressive. Is he going to get away?
Oh, no.
I think he did. I think he did.
He actually did, yeah, because Joe decided not to peek. Curious decision. That said, Knights are starting to run away with this now. A significant advantage in the 5v3. Even though Juicy is lit up, he's in a strong position. Knights have a lot of control downstairs. That's Hysterics you mentioned. The kitchen hallway was cleaned up by Josh downstairs. And Invictus, while they do have a line of sight in VIP, they have 90 and they have Aqua. No, they don't actually have VIP control itself. That's been retaken by the Knights. Plus, there's this vertical game as well. This is just looking more and more grim for the Singaporeans.
That's the thing. No matter where Invictus have tried to attack, no matter what kind of ground they've gained, it's kind of all been taken back. Juicy pushing into VIP, I think, has really negated a lot of that pressure from the northern side of the map. So it is going to have to come from Aquarium here. They're going to have to hope that Jordan can get something done, but it's just going to be the free kill. And now all the attention just turns to Billiards. The plant will try to go down, but here's the problem. They've got players underneath. They've got players all around them. They can't deny the plant just yet. Haywood doesn't have the line, but Sage has the C4 and Josh has the answer. A flawless round to start out.
My God, what a way to kick off this map for the Knights. Now, we've provided a lot of, I guess, evidence and firepower to why we would support the Knights in this matchup. And I think that inevitably here at APAC South in the broadcast, we do tend to have a little bias to the OS teams, you know.
No.
We try not to, but it is inevitable. You know, sometimes we do favor the OS teams perhaps more than we should, for example, in that previous game with Chiefs. But I think that Knights are really, at least in the first round here, demonstrating that it's definitely, I think, right to favor them in this match. But that said, Invictus, you know, they started very slow, not just in terms of their success, but literally that was a very, very slow attack. A lot of just droning and kind of a very slow, not engaging a lot. Of course, Knights not really taking a fight to them. And then just 2 untraded picks, right? Like you already mentioned, the Amaru getting into luggage really early. You know, Speakeasy loses that 1v1, and that's the end of it. You know, that's the end of his life. There's no trade. And separate, of course, there was Hysterics just walking around downstairs. Again, another 1v1. Invictus were not favored. And it just completely fell to pieces from that point.
You know, let's just play that out where, let's say Speakeasy does find that kill into the player on Aquarium. I still just don't think that they've got enough to play off of that, right? Knights just weren't, like, it wasn't, from what I could see, it wasn't a do-or-die situation for the round by any means. The opening kill can sometimes determine the outcome, but most definitely, you know, it just didn't feel like it was going to be a percentage play that would really heavily favor, you know, for that kind of a risk, for that kind of an early play. Certainly not what you would come to expect, but regardless, now we do move on. And it's important to note, you know, yeah, we can find justification in that first round, but by all means, Invictus are one of those teams that you do need to be very cautious of the respect that you show them. You know, it's the catch-22 of showing a team the respect that they deserve, but also not allowing them the freedom to play the way they wish. And I think Knights are one of those teams that for really all of the last 6 months, they have been a much slower and methodical team. And sometimes it gets punished, just like now, Luna catching Dino on the backside.
Yeah, very nice pick there early on, untraded as well. Invictus starting to close their grip around Cool Vibe stairs, gaining more control of the map, but Knights have a heavy presence up above this kitchen bomb site in Theater and Penthouse. Player at 90 with the shield and mute jammers. Now, no Wamai on the table. That first nade is actually just a little bit shy of the mark as we see Invictus trying to reattempt it here. It is quite pivotal to be able to gain control of that position at 90. Otherwise, Invictus can't really get much vertical onto the bomb site and expose those key positions. So I do think they're going to try and go for it, but funnily enough, they're not telegraphing that at the moment.
No, and I do like this from Haywood. He has aggressed, but only to safety and VIP. So they kind of give up a little bit of that aggression toward 90. That, you know, negates any push coming up white stairs, and just like that, it's kind of tit for tat. So far, just a game of chess playing out with not too many kills to talk about, but all of a sudden, I think that's just changed it.
Yeah, as soon as this numbers advantage starts to slip away on coastline of any map, this is one where it gets scary. That said, Invictus, if they're just going to go for this kitchen push from Sunrise, they're really going to be exposed to a lot of lines. The player in lobby, the player in VIP, they're all going to be pivotal. And Haywood, if he loses this fight, it could mean the round.
And it looks like that may well be the conclusion, Dev. 20 seconds left. There are a lot of lines open. Did I just hear what I think I heard? Dino finds his first victim. Jordan comes over, doesn't check the angle. Now, this is dangerous. If Sage can go unchecked here, they may not know. But Juicy, he won't be able to get enough done. Speakeasy mops up like a janitor. And just like that, it's one apiece. Nothing to write home about, with a really nice response from Invictus.
Yeah, very, very good, I guess, early and mid-round there from Invictus. The thing with Coastline, more so than any other map, is it really does just accentuate any advantage from the man advantage is far accentuated on these small maps, right? You know, if you think about Clubhouse, right, it might not actually matter if you're in a 4v5 if you've, let's say, like, got all the hatches open or denied all the hatches. You know, it tends to be kind of more like objective focus or like those mini games. Whereas Coastline, you don't have as many of those mini games. It's more about map control, about refragging, and about having, I guess, a volume of players. And so once Invictus found themselves in that 5v2, I believe it was actually at one point, they really just like, they not only do they have like obviously a lot of players that they can just kind of trade out, but it just meant that the map control was completely in tatters for Knights, and it did mean that there were a lot less ways they could deny that plant. And of course, Invictus can just find someone to force that plant down while flooding the site. I will admit, those frost mats there had me scared for a moment for Invictus. The fact that the first guy who jumped in was matted, and then Luna Metal got a team kill, I was definitely sweating there. But fortunately, the thing with Coastline is a very small map. If you have to just abandon the plan and go for kills, it's often not that difficult to do so.
I guess you could say, in a way, that the mini games are more macro than they are micro on Coastline. You know, I think that it is a really dulled down sense of what we've just been talking about there. But for sure, you know, I think that Invictus have shown us a really great start there. It's always concerning when a team starts off with a flawless round because it kind of sets the tone and the pace, especially if unchecked. But it's not going to be in this case. This scenario, it's good to see Invictus standing tall. Oh no, you hate to see it. You honestly hate to see it. Or you love to see it. I don't know which one it is, honestly, but it's dirt.
It is. And I think this is just, once again, accentuating what we've been seeing so far about Coastline. Really about, you know, taking map control and droning and information. And Haywood there, he thought he wasn't droned. Invictus clearly had droned him. Easiest wallbang of Luna's life. Dino might find himself in a similar position here. You know, he doesn't have many escape routes out of Sunrise, and as they have control above him, they have control of the stairs, they can really cut him off here and just start to encircle.
Now, the only other issue that you want to play into is the fact that if you hone in on this and you take too long to get the job done, well, Dino's job could technically be, you know, done in its own way, but I love that. Absolutely love that. Juicy finds a small little window, however, to trade dead, so it's not a naught. They do find something out of that, Knights.
Yeah, it's great to get a refrag. Another thing that's really important on Coastline, as this numbers advantage starts to, I guess, even up a little bit, like the fact that that was even, I guess, you know, that trade does slightly favor the Knights, but of course it does give Invictus that map control. They've got Sunrise, which is exactly what they want. Of course, they are going for this kitchen take. Hysterics has been down. Where did that happen? And was it a frost mat is my question. I think it actually was. He's now been rezzed. It was in Sunrise somewhere. Might have been a frost mat hidden. Yeah. Indeed, that's exactly what it was. So, I mean, don't underestimate the value that that can bring to Knights. You know, Hysterics is 20 HP now. It's going to be a really tough gunfight. And, you know, without a lot of vertical pressure, it's actually quite difficult to dislodge these players. So if Invictus can't convert a couple more picks here, this is actually going to be really challenging for them.
Dev, we've said it before, the lower the IQ, the higher the impact on those frost mats. So, I think that's going to continue to reign true. Right now, Invictus are still, I want to say they're in the driver's seat, but really when you think about it, a site like Kitchen, which can just cause so much chaos if you still are able to hold that vertical control, which I believe they are, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to open and access. But I'll tell you what, Invictus are doing an incredible job of shutting down the Knights. It's Sage in a 1v3.
Is it info? He has a C4. He could break the floor. Oh, no. He has no idea. But why is the ping coming out right where the planter is? I don't understand what we just saw, Rob. Like, did Knights have info or did they not? Because there were yellow pings right near that planter. And unfortunately, he didn't quite have the info. And as a result, this is just now impossible.
Yeah, some sharp shots maybe for Sage. A moment of heroism, but I feel like that's going to very quickly be dwindled in the win that is Invictus so far. Another good round on the board. I think that they're, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Invictus are really winning the start of these rounds. Obviously the first round, they lose Speakeasy early on, but apart from that, they've done a really solid job of isolating, for example, Dino that round in Sunrise was caught 3 which ways and had no way out. It was thanks to some brilliance, I think, from Juicy, who found a very quick trade onto Luna on blue. But they are most definitely finding those first little opening engagements and trying to favor them quite heavily. So if this keeps going, if this trend keeps happening, I think Invictus are going to start off on the right foot and really push Knights to their limits.
Yeah, I definitely agree that Invictus had some good map control takes there and they were finding picks. That said, Invictus were quite slow, so it meant that when it came down to that eventual execute, there's only 25 seconds left on the clock. In a 4v3, that's it's not a very favored position for Invictus. I would say marginally favored, but maybe 50%, 55% in their favor. So Knights definitely had a way out of that. The kicker, though, was the fact that the way Knights had set up that site with the rotate in the kegs walls, that's out of service, that kind of the triple wall that goes into lobby, because they'd opened that up, expecting that they would, yeah, here we go, thank you, Mandy. Because Knights had opened this, it meant that Invictus didn't actually have to take vertical control to actually clear those service positions and cut off the retake from Knights, because they could just do that once they had lobby control. So obviously we're back to Hookah now, but for later on, when Knights presumably go back to Kitchen, I'd like to see the adaptation and actually try and fortify that site a little bit more, since Invictus isn't actually taking the top floor.
Knights heavily favoring that vertical control. And, we saw it in round 1, we've seen it in the last 2 rounds. Unfortunately, it really, the only time we've seen it firmly pay off was round 1, and whether that was the vertical control or not that turned the tides, when you look at the pivotal moments in that round, it was certainly the earlier one-on-ones that gave them the upper hand. So now, how do Invictus decide to approach Hookah? That will be the real telling tale. If they can convert this round, do you say that Knights are in a bit of trouble going 3-1 into the latter stage of the first half?
I think if Knights can't win Hookah, then it's definitely quite telling. But, they've won it before. They could win it again. The difference is the way Invictus are playing this. Because they're going for a really hard map control take. Was that just... I think that was the player in Hookah just clearing the air jab off the Hookah door. Not entirely sure. I think they realized there was no one outside, so they just tanked the air jab as a way of clearing it so they can run out late round. That's a nice little thing. But for Invictus, right, they're actually dedicating many more players to the map clear this time from Master of Kloss, instead of having Hysterics crouch walking downstairs, having Speakeasy get up early into luggage. And I think this is a really good play from Invictus, because the last 2 rounds that they've won, they've done it because they've had all 5 players working together, instead of trying to kind of spread out a little bit. And spreading out has its advantages, but clearly sticking together is working.
You can see, I believe that is Hayward, in office, just underneath. Got a C4 in the pocket. Sage, if they have the info into Aquarium here, this could be a multi-frag on the C4, or even just play for it in the later stages. It looks like there's a fair few from Invictus putting the attention to Billiards at the moment. C4 now being prepped, and unfortunately it just doesn't hit the mark, Dev.
I do wonder whether they had info or whether that was just an audio call. Perhaps, because there are some holes to the floor, so Hayward would have had some idea. Josh has a really nice camera here for the run out. Sage's actually going to go for it, but Luna reads it. And even without that air jab, Luna was just watching for it. Josh tempted to go for one as well. Plan is going down. He does finish off what was left of Luna, but now things get very difficult for the Knights.
Yeah, Jordan getting that plant down is absolutely massive. Invictus can just sit back and watch as the chaos unfolds. Haywood, this is just a near impossible position to be in. You've got absolutely no way back to the site, no safe passage. Everywhere you turn, you're going to be watched and you are going to be hunted down. And this is just not pretty hysterics. I guess have a bit of fun in a 1-on-4, Dev. You can't really knock it all that much, but slowly and surely he will meet his fate. Can't get past Speakeasy and Invictus. An even more convincing round than the previous two.
Yeah, it certainly is, and at this point, I do wonder whether you're right, whether we should start to be a little bit concerned for the Knights. Now, of course, we have seen some pretty attacker-sided games so far here on Coastline. That one just passed. Chiefs were only able to win one. Oh, wait, sorry, no, they didn't win a single defense, rather. So you can definitely see that there is a way back into it here for Knights, but Invictus are just exemplary on those attacks. I do love the way that they are taking map control together. And if some of those fights had gone the other direction, you know, for example, if that run out had been successful from Sage, if Luna hadn't quite read that successfully, I think that probably would have been a nice round. Like, I know it's just one pick, right? But suddenly that's the presence outside big window gone. Knights, you know, didn't have to invest an extra player down there. Also would have meant that Knights would have another C4 to deny plant. And Sage was actually the player who denied the plant with the C4 in the very first round. So tiny little things that if they go the other way, you know, that could be a very different round.
We do speak about it so often, you know, like it is essentially the butterfly effect, you know, but just playing out in real time. Small, minute changes to the round can have drastic consequences toward the end. And for Knights, that's exactly what they've been faced with in pretty much the past 3 rounds. Just dire consequences when that last 20, 30 seconds comes to play. Invictus have done such a good job at being in the right position at the right time to capitalize on that as well. It is, it's a game of forced errors. You know? And speaking of forcing errors, I guess, it's Knights that have kind of taken that time out to go back and try to, let's just say, negate any issues that they've been having up until now, because it does really feel a little bit misjointed from what we've seen from the Knights in the past. Invictus are running amok on them right now. They need to correct whatever has been going wrong for them. You know, I don't claim to be the all-knowing by any means, but it doesn't take a genius to know that things aren't clicking right now for the Knights.
Yeah, but, you know, they're not going to dwell on the mistakes of Hookah and even Kitchen, which they tried twice and failed both times. Actually going to switch it up, go Blue Bar Sunrise. This is clearly not their favored bomb site, though, because they wouldn't have, you know, gone to 4 other different rounds with different bomb sites prior to this. For Invictus, though, you know, I'm expecting another slow and steady map control take. And honestly, I'm expecting it to work pretty well. It looks like Hookah is the first point of contention, perhaps some presence around... Aqua, with some presence perhaps around Hookah as well. Indeed, yeah, it's both of those two at the same time. Means they can get control above the site, and I think this is nice from Invictus, honestly. Like, they're keeping it simple, and a lot of teams would go, oh no, oh no, oh my god, you are lucky to be alive, my friend, Sage.
Wow. That's, I mean, and not even the tiniest bit of damage done. Nothing. So... that is, I would say, very unfortunate for Speakeasy in that position, but regardless, moving forward now, doesn't look like Knights have put any presence on that top floor. They have not extended. They are, however, extending more so horizontally than vertically in toward security and also into kitchen. You can see there perfectly shown how impactful these players offside are going to be. Invictus don't really seem to be putting any attention toward them right now. That's not to say that it's all going to go bang, though.
No, and look, the way that Knights are held up, it looks like this is optimally going to be a Sunrise attack for Invictus. just because Knights will have less ways to deny plant in that position. But that said, Invictus are shaping up at the moment for an office side attack, which would execute into blue bar. Thing about that is they haven't cleared lobby, and there's just a lot more other areas that Knights can deny platform if Invictus decide to go blue. And oh, that's a big pick as well. Hysterics going down thanks to the C4. That said, immediately traded back once again, so Invictus still maintain their man advantage.
Really smart from Speakeasy there. Bit unfortunate from Sage. I mean, I guess you do have to reposition after you've been shown, after your position's known. And it just walks right into the hands of Speakeasy. At this point, the big question becomes, do Invictus have enough to execute on this? Honestly, with that answer from Haywood, I don't know, Dev. This is feeling a little bit more on the edge than what we've seen in previous rounds from the attacking side.
Yeah, but that air jab left in security will make it very difficult for Haywood to come and help. Here comes the plant. That gas is denying it, so Jordan is forced off. Only 20 seconds left. There's no C4 left for Josh, which does make things a little bit difficult. It's actually a deep plant right on the door. Josh denies it. That is so massive right here for the Knights, and they just collapse. Joe falls, and the Knights finally regain their footing here and take a round back to Invictus.
I mean, that was a completely different round from what we've seen. That kind of mirrored more so round one from the Knights. It looked a lot more comfortable when it came push to shove, and Invictus just, I mean, I said it right before the execute came in. It just did not feel like they had done enough to try and deny that. Then again, it does still take heroics. It takes heroics from Josh to swing that and deny that plant, put the pressure back onto Invictus to go deep and trade. That is always the issue when you go deep for a plant. Look, sometimes it is the better of the two options, but it certainly leaves you a lot more exposed. Now, what I'm really curious about is the fact that we've seen a 4-2 half in both first halves of our games earlier on Coastline. One was defended sided, one was attacking sided. The reason why this is kind of, I guess, it's posing a bit of an interest for me is the fact that Coastline is, I'm not going to say heavily defended sided by any means, but in APAC South last season, it was 55% defender sided. So even just slightly, it's enough to turn the tides. And you do have to ask that question. You know, are the stats going to back it up here for Invictus? Because right now, in the position that they're in, they are setting themselves up to take this game in, you know, a numbers game. But obviously, it doesn't just come down to that. They are putting themselves in a prime position, though.
Definitely Invictus are looking good, but I think this round will be telling. If this is a 3-3 half, I would actually probably put my confidence back onto the Knights side. Even if Invictus go 4-2, I wouldn't say it's over for Knights. I mean, it's hard to say. I think Coastline is one of those maps where it can be very attacker-sided, it can be very defender-sided.
Yeah.
It's such a small map, which in a way does make it great to attack. But if you have to spend a lot of time dealing with all this crazy, map control and aggression, and the fact that defender can be from one side to the other, map to the other in about 2 seconds, it does make it quite hard to attack. So it all depends on the play style that the teams are going for. But for Invictus, their playstyle has been very much just looking at one thing at a time. Is this nade gonna, where is that gonna go all the way deep? Oh, just shy. I think that was actually meant to clear the electric claw, which is protecting the VIP walls, which we saw in the prep phase placed by Dino. So we're not gonna be able to get an angle, sadly, with the observer tool, but it's like on the roof of Kitchen, and it manages to protect those walls in VIP. But for Invictus, right, they're going for, once again, a slow and steady map control take. The thing is, if Knights just kind of leave this in a 5v5 late round, especially with, 3, 4 C4s and 3 gases, like, this is going to be a heavy plant denial base for Knights, and I think that's a really good way to play it. It's a perfect way to strat against this kind of playstyle from Invictus.
I mean, it definitely feels like that's going to be the game changer here for Knights, just being able to sit back on their laurels a little bit more and put the pressure onto Invictus, where, map control from east to west, from not from VIP, from theater across, you can have that if you want, because at the end of the day, you can afford to turtle on side here. It's good to see Josh underneath in Sunrise as well. It ensures the safety of those players on site, also allows them to play for that late round C4 if they need to. But As things start to shape up here, 50 seconds left. Invictus looking like it might be another Aquarium push.
Yeah, wow, and like, there's just so much wall denial as well. Like, the utility game's really being won by Knights right now, and it's just countering the way Invictus are playing. It means that it's going to be a very, very late execute once again, but this time it'll be an even man count, and there's going to be a lot of plans. Now, Haywood finds the pick onto Hysterics offside. That was with the new MP5 skin from the Pittsburgh Knights as well. And things are just going to get so hectic here as Invictus don't have a decent way to try and execute. This plan is not going to happen. Josh has a C4 to surely follow up. That gets the down. And even though we see the first picks come through from Invictus, there is just nothing that they can do, surely. But as I say that, it finally turns around. It's all on Haywood now in a 1v2. And by God, how did that flip?
Seems undoable. A crossfire somewhat from VIP here could be the demise of Haywood. He knows he has to pre-fire this. The other player's all the way out by Aquarium. So this is not going to be an easy retake by any means. Whatever he can find, any kind of damage might deter one of these players from overpeaking. But it just feels like they've got his number here. The last round and a half, the time is ticking. And Luna finds the kill to seal the deal. 4-2 for Invictus on their attacking half. The signs are looking good.
What a read from Invictus. I was talking all round about the way that Knights are playing so good for Plantanile. 4 C4s and 3 gas babes. There is just everything, every single operator from Knights brought some Plantanile. But you know what? Invictus, they tried to go for a plant for a moment. Haywood almost landed the shots through the floor to finish him off. But then Invictus decided to just go deep. They really just went all the way into site and overwhelmed the Knights players. You know, those C4s aren't going to help you much if we're actually just taking gunfights on the site. And even though it was kind of scrappy, even though Knights had the first pick, Invictus just used the fact that they had that VIP control and as the anvil to the hammer from Aqua, and it was honestly beautiful to see. You could tell by my voice at the time, I was not expecting it to go that way. No. I thought that was just so well prepared by Knights. I thought they countered Invictus really well, but that just last second call from Invictus was perfect.
A hook, line, and sinker, or so it feels. You know? It's just not good enough. And again, I hate to say this and repeat myself, but it does feel like the way the meta has changed in 2021 really does favor these kind of chaotic ends to round. You know, we used to see the 30-second, 20-second meta where it would be a utility dump throughout the round, then it'd be chaos. Whereas now it does feel like there's a lot more of an open play style to it, regardless of whether you want to approach a site in the earlier stages or the later stages. It is just chaos, and winning your ones is more important than it has ever been. As far as we're concerned, Invictus are just, I mean, they are heads and shoulders right now. They are in the lead and firmly so. Knights definitely needing to bounce back here. But, you know, only 5 drones left. I guess Juicy's probably, I hope, got 2 shock drones left. Make that only 4 live drones. That is a bit of a concern.
It certainly is, especially with the fact that there's a mute on the board, so even the remaining drones will be impeded. That said, opening pick for Knights on the Speakeasy, who was arguably MVP of last week's games, and another pick as well. That Jackal scanner does mean that Hysterics goes down even without being thrown, and we haven't seen a single thing right here. But suddenly, it's a 5v2 only a minute in.
What? Like, this is just absolutely ridiculous. Again, just touching on the absurdity of how different you can decide to, you know, play. Whether you want to play earlier in the round, whether you want to wait, util dump. And this now looking so much better for the Knights. Unfortunately, they do lose Juicy to a DC. But you'd have to imagine from here, a 4 versus 2, pretty much anything that they could need. Apart from the fact that Invictus still have both their anchors up. You know, it definitely looks like Knights' round.
There are definitely some things that could go wrong here for Knights. For example, if they try and rely on those smokes for a plant, those evil eyes from Joe could punish them Jordan's also getting very aggressive here in his own smoke. Oh, but it's red. That's so good.
Yeah.
Thank God Haywood found that. Otherwise, this DC may have spiraled into potential loss for Knights. Now it's just the newest member of IG, and what would have been a flawless round if not for a disconnect gets Knights back into the game.
I guess, yeah, flawless round for the boys on the attacking side, and no doubt tech pause to come out here as we do wait for Juicy's return, the return of the Juice Meister. And let's just talk back on what we've seen so far, Dev, because that round there really gives you a lot of hope for Knights. You know, we have no clue where those kills came from. They were quick, they were ferocious, and Invictus did not have a response at all for any of them, which is just absolutely absurd.
I think a lot of them were just, killing players who were kind of outside. So I'm trying to watch back on the VOD for just a moment, and Josh got his first pick from outside Sunrise. So I have got to presume that was a player in Sunrise. And yeah, obviously we're getting Juicy back into the game, so you're gonna have to look at our beautiful faces for a minute. Second pick was Hysterics went down, and he was the player who was roaming in service really early, shot a couple drones, but he was jackal scanned, and that allowed Haywood to hunt him down. Third pick was Luna. I've got no bloody idea where that was. It was definitely a hectic round, and it does go to show, right? Like this map definitely has a lot of diversity in the way it can be played, and if the attackers are just kind of sitting there waiting for openings and the defenders give it to them, it could just lead to a snowball round for the attack.
I guess, it did. That's probably just the best way of me confirming that. It really just felt like the second that they were able to gain that advantage, and it is something that we've talked about for the Knights for such a long time. It is that they, they convert their, let's say, net positive rounds. Generally when the Knights are out in front, most likely they are going to conclude that round. And that just is what we've come to expect. A team that has kind of shaped their own play style, if you will. I do still feel that regardless of where Invictus go from here, that round in the second half really does shake the boots a little bit. This pause will obviously give everyone time to reset and maybe reshuffle any ideas they have. But Invictus definitely need to be careful that Knights can't manhandle them like that ever again. That it just can't happen, because that is the big momentum shift that we see so often in games.
The thing is about that is often when you have rounds which just snowball like that, and especially when it's defenders who die really early, usually that's because the defenders are playing really aggressively and the attackers are punishing that. So obviously the easiest thing that Invictus can do to not let that happen is, well, just don't play so aggressively. Now obviously it's not that simple, because suddenly if Invictus decide not to play so aggressively, then suddenly Knights are going to get all this free map control. And if Knights are on the ball, they will take that map control and start to generate a win condition and execute based on that, and start just finding picks in a way that Invictus can't ignore. But that said, we have seen teams that are kind of given those opportunities and not necessarily very good at dealing with them. For example, and in the game we saw earlier today, Chiefs were really good at punishing the aggression from Elevate, but as soon as Elevate started to play a bit more patiently and kind of make Chiefs take that first move, Chiefs started to struggle a little bit. And it also can sometimes just be about smart aggression and I guess learning over the course of a match the play style of your opponent and when you can get away with making those plays, especially with Valkyrie on the board here, not banned out as she is so frequently on coastline. You'd think that would enable some more smart or successful aggression from the defense, but we haven't really seen a lot of that as of yet on either side.
Look, the game is a tango, right? It takes two to really dance in this matchup, and I think it is most definitely fair to say that Knights, toward the end of that first half, I should say, they seem to have kind of bunkered down a little bit more, and Invictus definitely had issues, being presented an opportunity to open it or, to find themselves in an advantage. And still, in that final round, when push comes to shove, I guess, the chaotic mess that is a final execute, it can always lead to mistakes being made. as always said, it is about capitalization. A kill box at the moment here, Dev. Goodness me, that's... I love to see it.
I mean, this is Penthouse, right? This is something you don't often get to see, but it is not.
Oh my god.
This is not a bomb site that Invictus are strangers to, and I have played it before, to a mixed success. Invictus is one of those teams that actually doesn't play in a lot of leagues, so it's not like we get to see them play this in the Nationals, but we did see them play it against NIP, the NIP World Champions, at SI, and Giants unfortunately did lose that round. I think this strategy is very similar. Main thing that they've changed is, I guess they're having a little bit of less dependence upon shields. Both the Clash that they used to run as a part of this strat and the Goyo shields. But I like this. It's a very much a there would be one shield in the case of the Warden, but also it's very much an anti-smoke lineup. So with the Twitch and the Jackal potentially running smokes, Knight's going to have to be very careful, otherwise the Evil Eyes from Maestro and of course Warden's glasses will peer through those smokes.
I'm a huge fan of this live droning from Knights right now. It's pretty much allowed the entire team to wipe out any of those rotations toward the bottom of white in lobby, and obviously up toward blue with Josh now advancing into kitchen. And just like that, it's also pushed Dino into Hall of Fame. So far, they've, a minute in, the fact that they've been able to get so much on these drones, I think it's going to pay quite big dividends when the round starts to come toward a bit of a bang. And you can see there's one drone on top of the bomb as well. So if it gets to that final piece of the puzzle, that may just be a determining factor. Wait and see, though. Won't get too ahead of myself.
But let's have a look at the top down for a minute of this bomb side, because this is... okay, we're just going to get to see the plant going down. So they cut off the lines of sight, but here comes the swing. Can the Warden get it? That is so pivotal! You have to cover Sage, you have to! But as soon as he loses that fight, it is over for the Knights. All it takes is the swing from Invictus inside theater, and Knights did not have enough people covering that. Now in a 2v4, this is getting difficult. That was the only way that they were going to win this, was to get that execute down. But Invictus, they did stop that plant dead in its tracks.
It looked like a solid read from the Knights. They knew exactly what they wanted to do, and that's just the beautiful and also the saddening thing of this game is it just takes one small mistake and all of the dominoes fall behind them. And just like that, on the back of one player not being able to cover the plant, the rest of the team are forced to dry peek and try and find something. It doesn't happen, Dev. Not in this world.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's quite a complicated strat there that Invictus had set up, right? And Knights kind of looked for the path of least resistance, but of course it is the plan that Invictus expected. And I'm not going to say that it was Invictus's utility or setup that really won that for them, because the Warden didn't have to look through smoke. It wasn't about the Evil Eyes. They were dismantled. Knights did a pretty good job of dismantling that strat. I think it was just like a chain. It's only as strong as its weakest link, and unfortunately for Sage, he was the weakest link. The fact that he could not cover that plant just meant that Invictus won the round. And I don't want to put it all on Sage's shoulders, because I think that the bigger question here is, well, maybe there needs to be two players from Knights watching that angle. Like, if it is so pivotal, have someone drop into bathroom and watch that from a different angle. Like, if you have that crossfire, there's no way Joe's going to swing both of you. Or even just someone Hall of Fame. Like, there were so many things.
I think there was a player in Hall of Fame, but he was trying to cover VIP. That, and like I think we saw it right after that death happened. There was too late to swing. So it's a little bit of an unfortunate conclusion for that execute. But look, that's fine. We can move on from here and look forward to round number 9 here. I do have some big concerns for Knights, because obviously this is that point. This is literally on the edge of closing it out. And from all intents and purposes, Invictus have looked the better team in most of these rounds. But for now, Knights are going to approach the building with a little bit more caution this time. One thing you will notice 100% with the Knights is how effective their early round droning is. It really allows them to get into some peculiar positions that will ensure that Invictus don't have the freedom of movement that you would generally see. And as far as the round goes, Invictus are not really playing into the hands at all. There's no one actually in kitchen. More so toward the back of service and bathroom dev. 2 minutes off the clock, and I do feel like Knights have really won the intel game so far.
It's good information, but it's about what you can do with it. When it eventually will come down, I mean, at the moment, it's shaping up for a sunrise kind of push, but at this point in the round, Knights have the flexibility to rotate for either. I'm a little worried about the smoke executes here because of that bulletproof camera that Speakeasy is currently watching. I don't want to see Knights get baited into using smokes. They only have the one left, though. Ooh, a lot of good info here for a potential retake of upstairs as well with Invictus on the Valkyrie camps. And Luna's so aggressive here. That's the punish that Knights needed, and that's the follow-up as well. Oh my god, Josh! He goes hard all the way into lobby, and suddenly it's just the two players upstairs.
No response from Invictus, surely. Go ahead, Jordan, do it. Show us what you've got. Nothing right into the open arms of Sage. Quickly traded by Haywood to close the round out. And I guess that is the opposite side of what we were just talking about before, Dev. You know, when one piece of the chain is a little bit weak, it snaps, and you know there's no possible tension there. But when it holds strong, when they manage to across the board hold true, that's what you see. A huge round that kind of flips the tide in our conversation at the very least. Maybe not the matchup. Maybe Invictus just come back and slap them around and Blue and Sunrise. I don't think it's going to happen, but ooh, I like this from Juicy. I do like this. The Flores instead of the Twitch. A couple more drones out on the board as well.
Yeah, what's funny is, you know, Twitch, she has 2 shock drones, but she doesn't get any normal drones. But Flores, he has 4 explosive drones, Roteros, and he gets his 2 normal drones as well. Kind of crazy, isn't it? Like, why go Zappy Girl if you can go a Boomy Boy?
Hashtag free Twitch. free the drones on Twitch, please.
I mean, what's funny is, like, I remember way back in the day, Twitch actually did have normal drones as well. But she only had 1 shock drone, and she was super weak, except for that F2. That was ridiculous.
I think that's when I think the changes must have come in as I joined Siege, because I do remember that F2 just being absolutely disgusting.
Yep, certainly. But, you know, I'm looking at Invictus now. I think that they've definitely shown a lot of depth here. In fact, this is the 4th bomb site that they have actually taken us to. Now, they've played 4 rounds of defense. They've done a full circuit around the world, the entire map, you know, hookah, penthouse, kitchen, blue bar, which is great. It shows some depth, but, you know, it's one thing to have, well, I guess it's one thing to have breadth, but it's another thing to actually have success, and that's depth.
It's actually crazy. In the 2 games that we saw, I don't think we've actually seen did we see Theatre hold at all?
Almost never. It's so rare.
I mean, we definitely didn't see it last season in APAC South, so... Oh, the timing on that.
Oh, the timing was so good.
I just heard it go, and I was like, no, there's no way. I got baited.
It's hysterics as thunder. Oh, he's looking for another one. He finds 2 kills. What a classic spot as well. Nicknamed Walker affectionately after the Japanese player who does so much from it. Juicy's last man left. But, well, they know exactly where he is. He's been fed the first kill. Are they going to keep feeding him? I mean, at some point, they'll just chill out and wait. But with 2 whole minutes left to go, Juicy's not got a lot to do here.
Now, let's just talk about this from Invictus' perspective. There we go. We got there in the end. This is a monstrous scalp for them to take. We had so many questions in stage 1. You know, where are they? Why are we not seeing the same kind of strength that we did in 2020? And this could really set them up on a path of destruction in stage 2. They may well be able to turn their whole year around if they can continue this throughout stage 2 and stage 3. It's obviously a long way, and it is a long Let's just be honest, it's a long story to tell, but it is a possibility. And what we're seeing right now is Knights stunted. It just doesn't feel like the same gusto that we've seen from Knights in the last 3 months.
And Knights were third place APAC of stage 1. Invictus, they weren't even on the scoreboard. Like, they literally don't have any SI points yet. They might have gone to the 6th Invitational 2021 rather, in Paris, but they aren't even on the global rankings for 2022. They haven't earned any SI points out of stage 1. They're looking to change that. Now, they're already taking our wild card, which, you know, is great, but I don't think that's anything to write home about just yet. Invictus already beat Wildcard in stage 1. Wildcard ended up second last on the standings. But Knights is, like you're saying, a completely different situation, a much bigger scalp to take. And, well, Invictus have already guaranteed themselves the 1 points out of this match. And you know, definitely it's on the cards for them to take the full 3, which would be massive. I think that there's going to be a lot of challenging games ahead for Invictus. I'm looking at, you know, their 7th Heaven game, and I think their Elevate game are probably going to be 2 of the toughest ones. They just traditionally struggled against those teams.
Yep.
But I also think this game isn't over yet. Knights. No. I think that Knights losing that Penthouse Theater defense was probably the biggest kicker for them. And I think after this game, that's the one they're going to be looking at and being a bit disappointed in themselves for. But there is definitely a way for them to get back into it. Dino thinks it's the Ying.
I mean, hey, I have absolutely nothing wrong with seeing a Ying come out to play. And again, I'm really enjoying seeing the Flores in its full use. Love this from Speakeasy. Even if Knights don't find the kill or Invictus don't find anything off of it, it certainly makes Knights weary. And one thing you need to also mention, Juicy has blown up the whole, the floor right into the hookah entrance, which if Speakeasy were to play under it, he's not going to obviously right now, but should that have been an impact, it's the double-edged sword of all the utility in the game. It's just something that we constantly talk about. It can certainly come back to haunt you, but maybe not this round. Maybe that is certainly a bit of a hypothesis that's definitely not going to be proven. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at the fact that this is the bomb site that Knights already won on the attack, but it was a very different scenario, right? Invictus have changed quite a lot. Previously, Knights won this. They got themselves into a 5v1, ended up as a flawless round. They just found pick after pick after pick. The Jackal even found someone. Now that's a good pick. Luna perhaps biting off a little bit more than he can chew with that run out, and Josh reading it perfectly. But here is the kicker for Invictus. Knights have a lot of map control, and if they can't start winning these ones, things are going to be very, very difficult for them. Like if Hysterics dies here, then I don't know if there's much left in the tank.
Again, you know, a 4 versus 5, still you can convert that on a site like Hookah and Billiards, but Knights have really... They have kept Invictus at arm's reach this entire time. Is it going to be enough? That, at the end of the day, that's the only question that matters. Match point is not a place you want to be, and you can't take it lightly. Hysterics is looking to put a bit of pressure on this flank, and he may well find a kill through the melee hole. I don't like to see this, Dev.
Oh, Hysterics is so keen, but he gets punished. Now is the opportunity for Knights to get back into this game. Dino does a good job of holding down VIP, but this is going to be an Aqua execute. Surely Jordan isn't able to hold down side. Speakeasy goes for the flank. That's big, but Jordan's taken down. It's all on Speakeasy now, and Josh cleans him up. The Knights are not done yet. They take us all the way to round 12 of regulation.
That's a much stronger round from the Knights, and something that we needed to see from them if we wanted to have any hope at pushing it to overtime. And it's so important, you know, 1 point can definitely make the difference at the end of the season. I actually, you know, now that I'm saying that, I don't think it made the difference this time around in top 4 and bottom 4. But that's not to say that at the end of stage 2, Knights taking 1 point away from this game could be the difference between a first place, a second place. You know, there is really endless possibilities with that. So any time that you have a an opening, when the door is left slightly ajar, you have to force your way in. And right now, Knights are writing their own future. They are rewriting their destiny. But we do go back to the haunted site. However, we do have a lot more positives to take away from it than what we did the first time. We know that Knights have an idea as to how they want to approach it, but it certainly is going to come down to every player on point.
Yeah, this, I just have a feeling this is going to be a really messy execute. Like, that's what Invictus are trying to do with this strat, right? They're trying to bait Knights into going for a really messy execute that Invictus are going to be able to better. And the main thing here is that, of course, the smoke plant is a large part of the game on this site, denying these long lines of sight. Now, previously, we had both Warden and Maestro from Invictus to counter the smokes. This time, the counter to the smokes just comes in the smoke himself, right? You can just throw a gas into a smoke. You know they can't plant there. There's a single bulletproof camera, but the other thing I'm really looking at here is the yokai drones.
Yeah.
And even though the yokai drones can't necessarily look through smoke, what they can do is just deny the plant just once or twice. And that actually buys time so that the attacker's smokes will dissipate and then enable a retake from the rest of the defense. That's what I'm really looking at here. So Knights have to be very careful. They really have to dot all their I's and cross all their T's to make this execute work.
Not gonna lie, I've seen some pretty haunted and cursed plays with the Yokais recently in the last couple of months, so I'm not gonna jinx it at all, that's for sure. But does leave a little bit of room, a story to be told, and I guess when we look at the utility that is going to be used, they do have 4 smokes. Dev, I hear you spotting something.
He's going to clear all this util with 1 Flores drone. That is the power of Flores!
Wow.
Goodbye, Malusi. Goodbye, bulletproof camera. That is so much util. Let's see, he's just going to go hunting. He's like, oh, there's an ADS. I'll take that, thank you. Okay, this is great. So that's 2 ADSs cleared.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a third one. Okay, yeah, there is a third one just near the bookshelf, so that will catch any... Oh, he's looking for it. He just goes past it. He actually destroys the shield instead. Bit of a waste of Josh's utility. Actually, don't know what happened there. Somehow the shield managed to stay intact. But nonetheless, Knights have found a pick, and this nade through the floor could be big as well.
Oh, surely. No, just moves off of the angle. So not only is the shield still up, but I believe that is 2 or at least 1 ADS by the bookshelf. Juicy spotted out the yokai though. That's quite important there. If they've been able to take that off the board, it could cause serious problems here. 50 seconds and it looks like Knights may start to get an idea of pushing in here, but Jordan taking down Haywood across the other side of the map puts a little bit more pressure on Dev.
Do they have info on this plant, though? Juicy wants to lock it down. Sage has to cover. He couldn't do it last time. It's on him and Dino, and now the flashes are going to be perfect as well. He has to retake, though, and that's perfect! My god, it all happens in an instance! And Dino, the Ying, it pans out perfectly. The awareness to cover VIP, Rob. We are going to overtime.
It's the big difference. We said it, Dev. Small mistakes cost you majorly. It's the way Siege plays out. First round they try that. Unfortunately, Sage can't hold the cross. Joe goes in, finds the planter and the player on big window. This time it is a lot more clear cut. Knights cross their T's, dot their I's, and really take that fight to Invictus. Now, this is where we separate the real players. Can Invictus confirm 2 points, or are they merely going to take 1 away? This is an Invictus timeout, and one that you know is most definitely needed.
I do wonder what they're talking about here. They start on that defensive side, but it was only 2 successful defense rounds across the whole spectrum of that half for Invictus. One was on Penthouse Theater, which now Knights have shown is very much winnable in their favor. So I think that's why Invictus are instead going to Blue Bar Sunrise. Now, only played it once. They did win it. Ever since Knights have switched away from the whole like Ashe and Twitch situation and gone for Flores Ying instead, they've been looking a lot better. The Flores in particular, especially for any kind of like anchor utility heavy setups that Invictus bring to the table, it's it's just so hard to play that when Knights have Flores, Mr. Steal Your Util, who just comes in and blows up everything that you've got in the site. So you have no info, you have no ADSs, you have no way to hold on.
Yes, it's frustrating, especially when there was a really good point in that last round where, you were talking about the Flores really having the large impact, but I believe it was Josh who was droning ahead to tell Flores tell Juicy where he needs to put those drones. And that, at the end of the day, those Rotero drones can eliminate so much utility, but at the same time, you need to know where it is. You only have, 8-9 seconds to really make that work. So the time is extremely limited, and you need to use it to the best effect. Right now, Knights seem to have it pretty down pat. And it is one thing that we have praised the Knights for. Their util drone, their droning has always been something that's given them an upper hand. And I think in that instance, it highlights it even more so.
Ooh, nice black eye thrown outside there. It's in a fairly obvious spot. I'm pretty sure I can actually see it right now. It's attached to the ruins, and it's like a dark camera. You can see it, yeah. Thank you, Mandy. Once again, dark camera on a light background, also a common spot. Josh is actually just droned for it as well. But you just mentioned that Knights are good at droning. Like, that is what you call thorough, and I really like it. I'm like 90% sure Josh was just droning for spawn peaks and to find that camera. Denying that info will be big. Assuming he is aware, I might have given him a little bit too much credit.
Guess we'll wait and see.
He's just playing really careful. Just look at how careful he is. Oh my god, in the apples.
Yep.
Juicy is like, ooh, hello. I think I've got a freebie right here.
Jordan has no idea either. Absolutely no idea. So this swing, it might be fruitful, Dev.
Knights are just really talking about this. This is like measure 50 times, cut once.
Let's see if they can take a piece of the pie. So far, Invictus haven't overextended at all, regardless of what it looked like to begin with. Two players that were looking aggressive over the top of Billiards. Oh, Dino, that's the kill that they needed. Eventually, Invictus play into their hands.
What a pivotal moment now for the Knights on the back of this comeback. They've already shown that they can right their wrongs on their attacking side and come back and win bomb sites they've previously lost. They did it with Penthouse, and now they're looking to do it with Blue Bar Sunrise. But Invictus, they've had match point for 3 rounds now, and it's slowly slipping away from them.
I mean, this is just such an awkward engagement. Oh, no!
Oh, no!
Hysterics just walks right into the barrel of Josh. You're not going to miss those. Not in a million years.
2 picks now because Invictus can't keep it in their pants. They just have to make a play. But this is the point where, I mean, they even more so. They have to make a play,
Bang.
But they're likely to get punished. Another one bites the dust. Invictus have just 2 players left. It's Jordan and Speakeasy, but that's a big C4! And Knights lock it down. They have match points.
Look at the dodge there. You love to see it from the Knights. They now have put themselves in the driver's seat. They go back to the all-elusive defensive side, though, Dev. This has been where the majority of the issues have been caused. Funnily enough, they are going to be reattempting Blue and Sunrise. And I mean, again, there are just points there where you feel like Invictus kind of give Knights an opening. Even if Invictus get away with their life, they still put themselves in an overly exposed position. In a 50-50 fight, it just does not bode favorably. And Knights are sitting pretty on match point. What was it, 2-3 rounds in a row there? Invictus had the ability to close out and just could not get it across the line. And now they're on the receiving end of it. You do hate to see it.
Yeah, and going back to Blue Bar Sunrise as well, this was also for Knights a flawless bomb site. But that said, they only played it once. So I am feeling like it's going to be an 8-7. I don't know who's going to take it. I'm starting to lean towards Knights now, but I just, I feel like Invictus are not out of this game. there's just something about that first half, how strong they were, that first Penthouse Theater defense that they managed as well. I think that they have a really good argument for why, you know, they are not over yet.
No, for sure. Their stake, their claim, it's definitely... It's as strong as it will ever be, I guess, at this point. Will we see Invictus push it? That's just the only question that I really have to be answered, because Knights 3 rounds in a row have given us their script. They've rewritten it. They've shown us that this is what they deserve, and it would be, oh my god,
oh no.
You just, there is nothing more that you hate to see than a cheeky pre. Haywood, you dirty dog.
With the new Pittsburgh Knights skin at that. Now on Invictus's attacks, Lunametal found the opening kill 4 out of 6 rounds. And now here's the first one out of the server in what could be the last round here for Invictus. Dino's in a strong position. Because of his Aruni punch, he could actually one-hit this barricade and swing as well. At this point, though, with how much we've seen aggression get punished here on Coastline, I don't think he should. Now, the other half of this for Invictus, for me, is the fact that they went for a blue bar take previously. Dino's swinging it! Is he going to lose it? Is he going to win it? Speakeasy's just droning. Oh my god, Joe better hope he wins this one.
Doesn't look like Dino's going to stick around to allow him to, but he is now caught out just on the other side of the reinforced wall. So Joe needs to be careful of an aggressive swing here. That's going to give his position away, but Dino decides not to swing. In fact, he takes the opportunity to back behind the bar and proceed to a little bit more of a secure and stable environment.
1 minute left, and this is looking pretty scary for Invictus. Their slow and steady kind of attack means that they don't take a lot of map control. You know, they take a small amount really well, but the fact that they don't have lobby control, or even like really good flank watch in server, just means that this is going to be so difficult. There are so many ways that Knights could come and deny the plant through this destroyed wall in blue bar. Even the player who's currently at top white could go into luggage and vault down into courtyard. And that's not even to mention these Knights players on site. So this is going to be a very, very difficult execute for Invictus, especially with those gas babes still up.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? 20 seconds left, and Juicy still has another one in the pocket. They're going to be able to burn at least another 10 seconds, and that's not including the one that he just placed down. However, a little bit more secure here for Jordan. He's gone a little bit deeper into the blue. They've stuck it.
Oh,
Haywood
no!
just denies it in time. That is absolutely massive. Nuclear at a moment where it's on a nice edge. It's match point, and it's the Knights game. They come back and take it with 4 straight rounds, Dev. That's a way to stamp your authority in stage 2.
Left, right, good Knights. What a comeback here for last stage's runners-up. Invictus looked so strong until the Knights stepped up. And in overtime, the game was all theirs. What a match, Rob. What an exciting overtime. And what a victory here for the Knights.
Certainly the Knights in shining armor have shone on through once again. It took a massive amount to really bring that to a point where we were even talking about it, Dev. You know, like I felt like in round 10, Invictus had that wrapped up. They, you know, stick a fork in it. It's done. Dinner's on the plate and we're ready to finish it. But it's just it's the do or die. It's the underdog story that I think Knights find themselves in consistently, where they come from behind in a position like that and just continue to fight and fight and fight. And it's just a non-stop talking point for us.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And look, coming into this game, we kind of set the stage, right? We had favored Knights, but there's always a part of me that is reserved for those teams that have those insane accomplishments like Invictus do. You know, they played the SI this year. They even beat some really strong international teams like Makers there. They've also been on the world stage in the past. They took down, you know, what is now Rogue way back in 2019 in Tokoname, and a lot of those players still play on this roster. So because of that pedigree and because of that history, you always kind of hold a candle for them. And while this is a new Invictus, the Knights are shown that they are not just some team. They're not just coming through a phase. They are well and truly one of the best teams in APAC.
Thanks for the history lesson, Professor Dev Marta. That's done for us here. We're going to give it back to the desk. They can break it all down. Enjoy.
Oh, sorry, I was just writing down notes for my history exam coming up. Thank you very much, Dev. What a game that was. Big performance, big comeback from the Knights. Invictus Gaming still looked pretty good. Taking it up to this top Knights team, Scuzz. I mean, while they don't win, I don't think Invictus will be too displeased with that. They look a lot better than they did in Stage 1. But for the Knights, it's the second week in a row where, you know, they started a bit slow, but then got going.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The Knights, I think, ultimately will be happy with the result. I mean, any win is a good win. The only thing, I guess, that casts a little bit of a shadow on the result is the fact that it was in overtime. As such, they only get the 2 points out of the 3, which is a little bit disappointing, again, when we think about the grander scheme of things, the standings and the head-to-head with Elevate and, you know, all those permutations. A couple of points here and there could potentially cost them. Again, don't want to make that big statement that it will cost them, because we really don't know. It's early days. But yeah, on the side of Invictus, I'm sure they'll be quite happy with how things did pan out. Was a bit of a slow start for both teams, I guess, and Invictus, you know, they're showing signs of improvement. I think that's the most important thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, look, the big takeaway is Knights have shown a huge amount of resilience. They go up against Elevate week 1, Invictus week 2. They stumble, but they never take a knee. They keep on powering through. They pick up the win. There's still stuff to work on going into week 3 and onwards throughout the round robin, but it's a good sign if you're a Knights fan if they can battle back from the point of absolute disaster and still pull out a win. 100% they are going to finish top 2, if not number 1 overall.
5 of the last 6 rounds to the Knights. They were very impressive down the stretch to claim victory in this match, as guys said, though. Only 2 points. We'll go and have a chat with one of my favorites. It's Juicy from the Knights. He's coming in fresh off the win. Firstly, mate, it's not 3 points, but it's still a big win against an ever-improving Invictus Gaming.
Yeah, obviously, you know, a bit disappointed to not get the 3, but the way things were looking for a little bit there, you know, obviously just happy with a couple of points, you know, kind of let it slip in that mid-game, so it was good to get a win still.
Yeah, I guess focusing in maybe more so on the early game, when you guys really started to mount that comeback, particularly at the back end of the second half and overtime. In fact, from round 7 all the way to the end of the game, every single time the team that got the opening pick managed to convert the round. Was that something that you were conscious of? Is that something the team was really trying to focus in on inside the server, or did it, I guess, it just naturally occur?
I think it just kind of naturally happens on, especially a map like Coastline, where like you get that first pick. I suppose on defense you try to, you know, field pressure to try to get back in the round by getting that pick back, and it can obviously spiral out of control. You know, it happens to everyone. If you like, you know, you let those couple of picks go, and you know, you just got to fight harder and harder to get back in the round. So I don't know, it can go both ways, but you're obviously conscious of it going into the attack rounds.
Now, look, it was a hard-fought run. You guys have already had a bit of a rough stage so far, going up against after week 1, the favourites coming in. So you've taken down Elevate, you've taken down Invictus. Who's next on the Pittsburgh Knight bounty list that you want to take down?
Honestly, it's just about beating everyone. There's no team in particular. I think it's as simple as that. Like, obviously, I said this last week, we had our hardest 2 games in the last 2 games last season, and this season I think we had the hardest first 2 games. So to get off to a good start with a couple of wins, especially against these 2 teams that have, you know, proven themselves over seasons, it's feels really good. So I don't know, we're just after everyone at this point, Blue. Like, I just, you know, want everyone's head.
Well, you know, you say you got the hardest 2 out of the way, but you do have Q confirmed coming up next week, and of course they're 2 and zip at the moment above you guys because they've got all 6 points. Final thoughts, maybe on that game and looking ahead.
Same as every game for us, really. You know, we'll do our prep, go into it with the expectation that we're gonna, you know, get all 3 points. It's, you know, they're playing well, and I think we're playing well at some point. If we can just get rid of a couple of the small mistakes we had in rounds, I think we'll be able to get that one as well. So, all confidence going ahead.
Thank you very much for having a chat with us, mate. We'll maybe see you next week.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
So the Knights, 5 points, technically, I guess 2 wins, but it's, you know, as it is on the standings, 1-1, I guess, Guz. But, and while they obviously would have liked all 3 points, they don't walk away with all 3 points. It's not the end of the world, and I think ultimately, when we look at the season as a whole, I don't think it's going to hinder them too much. It technically could later on, but let's not worry about that now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only other team, as you mentioned, that they're versing next week that has gone perfect thus far is actually Q confirmed. So, I mean, It would be an absolutely wild story if next week Q Confirm managed to somehow get 3 points against the Knights. That would just completely throw the entire league out of whack. But again, that's a long way into the future. And I mean, Juicy seemed pretty confident. He always does every week, week in, week out. It doesn't matter who the opponent is, the Knights take the same approach. And I think that's really, honestly, probably what's contributing to the recent consistency. For the most part, they put in really good performances, particularly in APAC South, week after week. As he mentioned, doesn't matter who the opponent is, they'll show up.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention the attitude they come in. There's clearly a lot of respect coming out of the Knights. They don't bolster themselves too much. They come in, there's no real fanfare. They'll just come in, do their job, pick up the win, and move on from there. They are looking to take out the league, and it's very evident in the way Juicy carries himself.
They certainly are. We're going to go to a quick break. When we do come back, though, one more match for today's proceeding. It's going to be an all-Aussie Brawl wildcard versus Order.
Yeah.